I'm Ryan, you're watching 60 Cycle Hum, and I've been playing this Miltone here, which happens to be just about the worst guitar I've ever played in my life. There's a lot of very interesting things going on with this guitar. I don't own this thing. This is the property of Steve, one of the hosts here on the Guitar Podcast. He got this in a trade years ago, and it's just been sitting around ever since. It is a piece. It is a piece of something. I'll tell you what, there's a lot to unpack here with this guitar. I mean, first of all, this switch is frozen dead. You can't move the switch, and you can't get it off the bridge position, and if you wiggle it a little bit, it like starts to cut out. I've never seen bridge and tailpiece hardware made out of metal like this. Steve calls it pig iron. I don't know if that's a real term for anything, but it's definitely like a completely just out there different kind of metal. It's like whoever built this thing saw pictures of guitars and did their best to approximate the components. You'll notice that the string saddles, even though this appears to be kind of like an interesting tunematic style design here and seems to be functional, you look at the holes where the screws and the bridge posts are going through, and they're round, which means that there's not going to be a lot of throw for adjustment on these actual saddles. It's all just for looks, to look like it's an adjustable bridge, but there might be a slight amount of adjustment. Like the saddles are shifted just slightly. I have a feeling there's no more throw left on them. This thing's not in intonation at all. It's wild. The body is either chambered or hollow in some sort of way. The pickups, well, the pickup, because I can only select one, is microphonic. Let's throw on a delay here and you can see what I'm talking about. Micro! Phonic! Let's throw on a bunch of effects. Two delays, a reverb, a tremolo, dark world reverb, overdrive. Micro. Phonic. Microphonic. Stay. Grounded. And like the pickup cover, I mean, it looks like a covered like EMG sort of thing, but it's actually like this tin or aluminum metal cover over the pickup. Completely unique humbucker rings here. They're not using off-the-shelf parts for this guitar at all. Everything is custom built for this guitar so that they didn't have to buy parts somewhere else, apparently. Even the switch, I've never seen a switch like this in my life. It's just, everything's just a little bit off. Even the volume and tone controls, like it's a different typeface and size for the font on here. The volume is huge, the tone is small, different ink used, different size numbers. I'm gonna have to... The plan is I'm going to take this thing apart right now. I'm going to autopsy it, and we're going to look at all the parts, and then I'm not going to put it back together. I'm going to harvest things I think are interesting, and then Steve and I will decide the fate of the rest of this guitar later, because it is practically an unplayable guitar. The action is super high off the neck. I could probably shim the neck because it is bolt-on with this 3 screw neck plate here, but there's nothing else redeemable about this guitar that makes me want to try to save it in any way. The finish is kind of interesting, I guess. I kind of like the character of the really rough, like preschool relic going on here. Like there's pink crayon on it and just random scratches and just kind of like an aged texture to it. But like I said, there's some sort of like hollow chambering thing going on here. I'm really interested to see what's going on inside this body, if I can get the pickups out and look around what's going on in here, or maybe I can spy what's going on through some of these control cavities. Super cheap tuners back here, jumpy as hell. They don't stay in tune at all. The nut actually looks kind of fine. It actually looks like it's cut decent height. Like I said, the action's really high, but it's not the highest action I've ever seen. It's not like, you know, like weird like thrift market toy guitar kind of action. Like you could technically play this. You could probably convert it to a slide guitar if you addressed some of the issues. But man, this thing's just a piece. And let's take it apart. Let's stop chewing the fat here. Let's get to it. Do I unwind the strings or do I just clip them? Why would I bother unwinding them? All right, watch your eyes. This is fun. I don't think I've ever done that before. This stop tail is held down by like hex screws. None of this is guitar equipment. Like, they improv'd their way through this whole thing. I've never seen a hex screw like this holding down. I kind of want to reuse this hardware on something just because it's so weird. Like, I wouldn't be able to use... Oh man, I'd have to put these screws into something. It actually, there's a little bit of a throw on there. It's not too terrible. Like, it is adjustable, but the fact that the holes are round is still pretty hilarious to me. I want to get in to these pickups. If I can even get through the screws. They have that feeling like they're going to just crumble as I try to unscrew them. I have a couple screwdrivers here. Maybe one will bite these screws a little bit truer. I might just have to snap this thing out. Ah, the wood's so soft, the screws are just pulling out. That's rough. That's a little brutal. How many yank screws out like that? Whoa, boy, here we go. I want to see what's underneath this pickup cover. Okay, the screws that are in here are like sharp wood screws to hold the pickup in. I'm gonna take pictures of these. I want to desolder this and get the cover off. I'm gonna have to bust out the soldering iron. There's so much solder here, I don't know if I'll even be able to get it loose. I might have to brute force it. Or use like a Dremel or something. A Dremel might be a good idea. Yeah, screw this, I'm gonna Dremel it. I don't think that's being terribly effective. I think I can brute force it. This metal pickup cover is super soft. I really think it might be aluminum. Oh boy. Oh boy, what do we have here? Oh, that's not a humbucker. Oh my goodness, what am I looking at here? It's just a bunch of wire in plastic taped around a magnet. I gotta get a photo of this. That third wire is just a ground, so it is a 2-wire. It's a ground to the plate. That is beautiful in a certain way. That's functionally like a lipstick pickup, right? It's just a bunch of wire taped around a magnet. Spectacular. And having this thing open now, you can see why it feels hollow or chambered. The top of the guitar is floating over the rest of the guitar. There is just this like 3/8 gap. It meets over here. You think I should take the pick guard off? See if there's anything interesting under there? I kind of doubt there is, but if I'm going to do a guitar autopsy, might as well go for it, right? Take everything off. Part of me had the thought like, oh, maybe I should repurpose this body, but now that I'm seeing that gap there, and knowing that this thing is just put together in like the weirdest way possible, with like the cheapest looking plywood you could imagine, I'm really not interested in, you know, doing anything extra with this guitar. I'm gonna just trim this pickup off. Let's take the neck off. Let's really go for it. The neck plate was kind of like glued to the body. No unique markings on the neck heel at all. Spectacular chunk taken out of the fretboard here. This guitar lived a life of abuse before Steve got his hands on it. I don't know why I've still got it plugged in. It already does have a little bit of a shim in there. I didn't show you while I was doing this, but the gap in between the neck and the side here was wide enough for me to shove a couple picks into. There is some shimming on the lower side of that neck heel. They were attempting to hold it in place somehow, but I mean, I think this thing needed a lot more shimming, honestly. Man, layers of plywood. Whew, this construction is a trip. I've never seen anything like this. I've taken apart a lot of cheap guitars. This is all new to me. It's like they spent extra time engineering this thing just to make it as cheap as possible. I want to take a peek at the controls. If I can get these screws out. I have a feeling there's very few parts of this that I'm actually going to be able to salvage. This isn't a salvage operation. It really is an autopsy. There's nothing worth saving here. No one's getting any of these organs. Gotta yank another screw. There we go. Oh boy. These are marked as 500K pots. Maybe I should save the pots. Again, side view of the construction of this thing. You can see this gap down in there with the top of the body raised up against the rest of it. What were they thinking? Instead of doing a carve, they made an arch top for this guitar. It was cheaper for them to mold and arch a piece of plywood than it was to take a piece of wood and carve it. Super weird. And it seems like much more effort too to mold and form a piece of plywood. This switch, why is there a piece of broken plastic in the switch cavity? That's super weird. Monster switch here. Oh, that's why, that's where that piece of plastic came from. It broke off the side of the switch. No wonder it's frozen up. Anyone want to buy a switch? Ah, that is a wreck. Huge switch too. I want to get this pickup out. Get this body as stripped as possible. I really do want to just take it down to nothing. We'll give a bit of a lead on this one in case I want to use this pickup someday. I'm never going to use this pickup. They're just so sad inside. Younger, cheaper Ryan would have salvaged this wire and kept it in a baggie somewhere for future projects. But I'm gonna toss all that. I like to use that cloth wire now. It's just so convenient. You can just push back the cloth instead of having to trim back plastic. Okay. I guess the jack plate is salvageable. I could use that jack plate on something someday. Just trim that out. I can hear the wood cracking just from the pressure of the screwdriver. It's like the cheapest feeling wood imaginable. Of course, I'm not doing, you know, a careful job of removing these. I'm not worried about saving the guitar. I kind of like the look of these tone knobs with the little text and the little numbers, where the volume looks more like a standard modern knob. Maybe not. I guess I don't have anything around with standard Strat knobs on it. Yeah, I guess it looks like the knobs on my Duosonic. My overhead camera stopped recording a couple minutes ago. Sorry about that. Every little thing I do is causing the wood to make crunching sounds. Man, I don't know if these are savable. Like, even everything looks like they just started from scratch or just used components from outside what normally gets used on guitars. Like the little knurled part on the ends of these is way shorter than you would expect to see on a guitar pot. Just that tiny little bit there. I mean, maybe they're fine. I should probably test these and see if they are actually 500K. Or if they even function. Even these strap buttons are not worth saving. They're the crappy little ones that your strap's just gonna pop off of. There's nothing redeemable about this guitar, guys. Don't feel sad for it that it won't be a guitar anymore after this, no matter what's going to happen to it or not happen to it. Well, that's that. That's the Milton body. I should take apart one of those tuners to see what's under the hood with those guys. Steve did some kind of stupid knot on these strings. I hate it when people do that. He might not have even changed these strings. I don't know. But when I undo strings, I want them to just pop off. I don't want to have to frickin' untie stuff. It's not going to come out until I remove that string knot. Just your standard worm and gear sort of thing here. Exactly what you would expect. I don't know what I was expecting when I took it off, but they're cheap tuners, they're jumpy, they're crappy, they're not worth saving. Just like the rest of the parts of this guitar. It's kind of neat that there's this, you know, kind of wandering weather checking. Interesting natural relic on this thing. People work really hard to get weather checking like that artificially for relic guitars. Well, anyways, that's been the Miltone. I'm sure we'll feature the fate of this guitar in some way here sometime in the future. I'm never putting it back together. I am not going to put this guitar back together. I'm not going to put another neck on this. The body is trash. Like, this is not salvageable in any way. Like, I can see through underneath that raised top here. Let's see if I can get a photo of that. I don't think I will. Maybe if I jam the phone down in there. Yeah. What a pile of hot trash this thing is. I know I'm going to get comments down below from people who are like, oh, send it to me, send it to me. You really think friggin' $40, $60 shipping is worth it for this guitar? It's not. Go buy a guitar that's worth playing, because this one wasn't. All right, thanks for watching, everyone. Please like, subscribe, leave me rude, nasty comments. Support us on Patreon. Buy a shirt down below. And stay grounded. Bye, everybody.